Avalanche just made one of the boldest moves we've seen in years. The foundation behind it is raising $1 billion, not for marketing, not for partnerships, not for buying Super Bowl ads, but for something much more direct. They want to buy their own token, $1 billion worth of AVAX. Imagine Apple announcing a massive stock buyback to tighten supply. That's exactly what Avalanche is doing in the crypto world. And whether you hold Avalanche or not, this move sends a signal the whole market should pay attention to. Now, maybe you're listening and thinking, okay, Avalanche, I've heard of it, but I don't really know what it does. That's fair. Most people know Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP, Dogecoin. Avalanche is in the top 20, but it hasn't always been a headline grabber. So let's start simple. Avalanche is a blockchain built for speed and scale. If Bitcoin is digital gold and Ethereum is the decentralized computer, Avalanche is the high-speed rail system. It's designed to handle thousands of transactions per second, cheap fees, and it runs something called subnets. Basically mini blockchains that can all run in parallel. That makes it flexible, so one subnet could host a game, another could host a bank-like service, another could run NFTs. It's like Ethereum and Solana's cousin, built to do a little of both. Okay, that's Avalanche in plain English. Now here's where it gets spicy. The Avalanche Foundation has decided to raise $1 billion to create entities whose main job is to buy and hold AVAX, Avalanche's token. That's it. No complicated DeFi strategy, no weird liquidity mining, just accumulation. If that sounds familiar, it should. It's basically the blockchain version of a stock buyback. Companies buy their own stock when they want to reduce supply and support price. And in crypto, reducing supply has always been powerful. Think of Bitcoin's halvings. Every 4 years, the number of new BTC created gets cut in half. That supply shock is what's driven every major Bitcoin bull run. Avalanche is trying to engineer its own version of that with this billion-dollar move. So, what does this mean for holders? Well, it's pretty straightforward. More demand plus less supply usually equals higher price. Right now, AVAX trades around $52. Imagine what happens if the foundation itself starts swallowing up a huge chunk of the circulating supply. Even without a flood of new users, the act of buying that much could squeeze price higher. And if new users join in at the same time, that's when things really move. But let's pause here, because it's not just about Avalanche holders. This is about the entire crypto market. When one of the top blockchains makes a play this bold, others notice. Solana is riding high on ETF speculation. XRP is fighting regulators and dreaming of a $10 breakout. Bitcoin is consolidating at 114,000. And Avalanche is saying, fine, if no one else will create demand, we'll create it ourselves. That's a message that goes beyond AVAX. It tells the market that blockchains are now competing not just on tech, but on financial engineering. Now analysts are split on this move. The bulls love it. They say this is confidence in action. If the Avalanche Foundation is willing to raise and spend $1 billion on its own coin, it shows they believe in the long-term value. It creates scarcity, it supports price, and it makes AVAX more attractive to institutions. Some even call it a game changer, saying it could set a precedent for other projects. But the bears? They're cautious. They say it's artificial. They argue that if demand isn't organic, propping up price with foundation money could backfire. What happens when the billion is spent? What happens if regulators say this looks like manipulation? And what if people lose trust in a token that relies on its foundation to pump it? These are fair questions, because while Bitcoin's supply shocks come from code and halving cycles, Avalanche's comes from a human decision, and humans can change their minds. So let's make this relatable. Imagine you're holding no AVAX at all, just Bitcoin or Ethereum. Why should you care? Because this is a window into the next phase of crypto competition. It's no longer enough to have fast transactions or clever tech. The market is demanding big moves, bold plays, and strong signals. Bitcoin had its ETF wave, Ethereum followed. Solana is surfing ETF rumors. XRP is clinging to $3 and fighting for legitimacy. Avalanche is taking a different path. It's saying, we'll make our own luck. That matters because if it works, others will copy it. And if they copy it, the entire market dynamic changes. Now let's step back and connect it to history. Supply shock has always been the crypto story. In 2012, Bitcoin's first halving took block rewards from 50 Bitcoin to 25. Price surged from $12 to over 100. In 2016, another halving pushed Bitcoin from 400 to nearly 20,000. In 2020, the halving kicked off the run to 69,000. Each time, reducing supply while demand grew created explosive upside. Avalanche is trying to replicate that pattern, just with foundation dollars instead of code. So what's the risk? The risk is that the community doesn't buy in. Bitcoin's halvings work because they're predictable and decentralized. Avalanche's plan depends on trust in the foundation. If investors think it's just a gimmick, it won't stick. And regulators could raise eyebrows. A foundation raising money to buy its own token looks a lot like market intervention. If the SEC doesn't like XRP's sales, imagine what they'll say about Avalanche buying 1 billion of its own coin. But here's the other side. If it works, the upside is massive. Think about AVAX at $52 today. Cut supply, boost demand, and suddenly $100 doesn't look crazy. Push further, and 200 is on the table. That's the bull case analysts are whispering about. And while price targets are always speculation, the logic of supply and demand is hard to ignore. And this brings us to you, the crypto family. Even if you never buy AVAX, pay attention. Because this tells you the level of play we're moving into. This isn't 2017's ICO craze. This isn't 2021's meme coin madness. This is 2025. Where foundations are raising billions and institutions are IPOing blockchain companies like Figure. The stakes are higher, the moves are bigger, and the competition is fiercer. If Avalanche succeeds, others will follow. If it fails, it will be a cautionary tale. Either way, the market learns and adapts. Now, let's talk psychology. Retail investors like you and me love a good story. Bitcoin's story is simple. Digital gold. Ethereum's story is world computer. Dogecoin's is fun and memes. XRP's is banks and payments. Avalanche's story hasn't always been clear. It's been the other fast blockchain. But now, with this billion-dollar move, Avalanche is writing a new story. Boldness, scarcity, confidence. That's the kind of narrative retail can latch onto. And narratives drive markets as much as fundamentals do. So where does this go next? The Avalanche Foundation will begin raising and deploying this billion. You'll start to see on-chain data showing accumulation. Analysts will track wallets. The community will cheer or jeer. And the price will react. The key is whether the move sparks broader confidence. If it does, AVAX could rally like we haven't seen in years. If it doesn't, it could fade into another footnote in crypto history. Crypto family, this is why we watch. This is why we stay sharp. Because every week, a new headline reshapes the market. Bitcoin ETFs, Ethereum ETFs, Solana whispers, XRP battles, Avalanche billion-dollar gambles. Each one is a piece of the puzzle. And if you step back, you can see the bigger picture. Crypto isn't fringe anymore. It's bold, it's mainstream, and it's competing at billion-dollar scale. So, let me leave you with this. Avalanche's gamble isn't just about AVAX, it's about the future of how blockchains play the game. Will we see more foundations hoard their own tokens? Will regulators step in? Or will this be the spark that takes Avalanche from the shadows to the spotlight? We don't know yet. But one thing's certain, it's worth paying attention to. And remember, crypto family, no matter what you hold, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, XRP, Dogecoin, or maybe even Avalanche, keep it safe. I use a Ledger wallet myself, and you can grab one through the link in the description to protect your crypto before CBDCs hit. Stay secure, stay focused, and as always, we will see you at the top.